Hi, this is Michael Riley, host of the Open Soul Podcast. This special edition was produced by students of our podcast guest training program in October 2024. This training is designed for anyone with little to no experience to become an interesting and engaging guest on any podcast, where you'll be able to inform, entertain, and self-promote after just a few in-person classes. If you would like information about attending one of our workshops in the Phoenix area, please shoot us an email, opensoulpodcast@gmail.com.
You're listening to the Open Soul Podcast.
Now I get the extra special privilege of speaking with Gail Iranpour. Gail, how you doing?
I'm doing great. What a nice welcome. Thank you, Michael.
Well, you're welcome. Tell us a little about yourself and where you're from.
I have lived in the Phoenix metropolitan area for about 25 years now. I love Phoenix. I had the opportunity to move anywhere in the United States with my husband's career and transfer, and Phoenix was just calling to me.
So you and I met at the Place of Spiritual Wisdom, where you host a couple of sessions each week. And in our conversations, I've learned that you are actually very busy with a broad background in spiritual topics, also in psychology and some other. Tell us more about yourself.
I currently am facilitating 2 different groups at the Place of Spiritual Wisdom. We have a book study, and we've been going strong for 3 years. As soon as we finish one book, we start another and really explore the spiritual concepts and themes that arise out of the books. I was previously a high school and middle school English teacher. So that is a very comfortable thing for me to do. And I went back to graduate school later in life. I always had a passion for psychology and wanting to understand myself and others better. And I earned my graduate degree in psychology with an emphasis in life coaching. And then I got out into the world and I was like, well, how am I supposed to put this into practice? And I just kind of fell into what came comfortable and natural to me.
And what was that?
Well, the book studies, of course. I always engaged in character analysis, which is not that different than studying human personalities in the reality that we exist in. So that has been an absolute joy for me.
So you're talking about a diverse background, and I've known you for over a year, and this is the first time you've said that you were an English teacher. I'm not surprised, but the only thing that surprises me is that the more I get to know you, the more diverse your background sounds. So you've taken a lot of these things, a lot of your professional skills, and your interest in spirituality, and you've honed this now into your approach to the things that you do. And when we spoke about this before, you were talking specifically about astrology, and that you're looking at things from a unique perspective, the things that you focus on in astrology. You want to tell us a little about that?
I would love to. So every Thursday, we have our book study. And after that, we take a lunch break. And then I have the pleasure of having a lot of different ladies join me, sometimes men. Well, we welcome everybody to discuss astrology. And we'll have like a little conversation about the astrological weather, what is going on in the world right now. But I would classify myself as a spiritual activist. There's no point in studying anything if it doesn't have practical application to it. So we tend to explore how we understand our world and how we're going to use the astrological energy in very personal ways.
You had mentioned something called karmic astrology as being a passion of yours.
I love, as I mentioned earlier, any kind of personality assessments, and karmic astrology is a very powerful aspect of astrology that not everybody is familiar with.
I'm certainly not. What is that?
Well, it has to do with having an open mind to the possibility that we've lived past lives before. And because we've lived past lives, we come into this life with some energetics that need to be a little bit diluted. Not that they're bad qualities to have, but too much of a good thing is not a good thing. And when you study karmic astrology, it starts with understanding your nodal placement at birth. And the nodes are mathematical points that are referenced by the moon. And when you understand the eclipses that happened before you were born, you understand what energetics you're coming into this world with.
Define energetics for us.
Energetics are personality traits, behavioral traits, emotions that you tend to hold on to, that once you make peace with, you can step into your happiness. So a lot of people refer to new moon astrology as coming to understand your karma and your dharma. And the south node is the karma that you've come into this lifetime with. And it's the behavioral patterns that you adopted because that's what you had to do to feel safe in that life. But now this is a new life, and you have to reduce them if you have too many. So for example, if you were in survival mode in a previous life and you develop the tendency to only think about yourself and your needs and what you want to happen in life, chances are in your next life, they're going to try to balance that out for you with your north node being in a position to encourage you to think about other people and relationships. And it's not that you don't want to survive, but you also want the blessings of having such wonderful relationships in your life.
We're talking with Karen Gail Iranpour on this special edition of the Open Soul podcast. And Gail, we were just starting to talk about your involvement in karmic astrology. Tell us more about that.
One of the things that I absolutely love about karmic astrology as a life coach is that I don't even need to have my clients believe in astrology for me to be able to bring the knowledge into our sessions. So on the intake form, their date of birth is given to me, and I'm able to easily look up where their nodal placement is. And based on that information, I have a very clear understanding of what likely is troubling them in their lives that is just not quite allowing them to achieve the level of joy that they want. And they're amazing icebreaker questions. So people could actually go to therapy for years and never even get these things addressed unless they absolutely happen to come up in conversation. And I am currently in the midst of writing a book about karmic astrology and best practices for using it in life coaching. I love it when science and spirituality merge together. So I understand the science of psychology and how to help guide the clients to coming to their own conclusions about what they need to do in their life to reach a higher level of happiness. And when I can combine that with the spiritual knowledge that I have, it's just amazing, wonderful tool that not only myself uses on a daily basis almost, but other life coaches will be able to easily access and bring out these icebreaker conversation starters with their clients that can lead to tremendous breakthroughs.
Do you ever see that sort of thing happen during either of the classes that you facilitate?
Oh my gosh, the astrology is absolutely mind-blowing. One of the things that recently came up for us in the astrology group was we were investigating the asteroid Urania and its placement in our own individual charts. And when I looked up the house that Urania is in my own chart, it very clearly stated that I would likely be teaching astrology later in life. I'm like, holy cow, how can they possibly know that about me?
Wait a minute, let me get this straight. So the sun and the moon and the stars and all the cosmic stuff was able to be organized and understood to predict that that would be what would be happening later in your life?
Absolutely. And it is just incredible.
I mean, that is incredible. Yeah, it's focusing down to minute details of things, not just, if you're this sign, you're generally like that. I mean, you're talking about very practical, useful information.
Exactly. And that's why I call myself a spiritual activist, because if we're not going to put it into practical application in the physical, there's no point in spending time trying to understand it or learn about it. I can tell you, I did not get my own astrological chart until I was in my 50s. And then I saw mine and was able to reflect back on my life, all the things that had manifested that were predicted based off of my birth. I could have gotten this chart 50 years earlier, and it would have said exactly the same thing. And I can give you an example of somebody I know whose chart very clearly said that they would move to a foreign country, that they would marry a spiritual woman, and that they would work in the transportation field. And this is a person that was born in the Middle East, moved to the United States to go to flight school, and sure enough, married a spiritual woman. Just incredible.
So it got down to that level of detail.
Well, and astrology keeps on expanding, which is one of the things that I really love about it, because my understanding is until we're aware of an asteroid or a dwarf planet or anything else in our solar system, it doesn't really impact us. But it's constantly changing and evolving and growing. So now we have all these asteroids that have come into closer contact with the United States or with the world, and science keeps expanding where we're able to see things that are further out, and there's just no end to what you can discover about yourself.
During the course of the production on this special edition of the Open Soul podcast, we have actually had 3 advanced astrologers come on as guests. Some of them are also doing double duty as hosts, including Gail here. I guess my point in saying this is to say there's just this incredible wealth of talent and experience at the professional level, but this is a community first, and the people who come here with all of their gifts and all of their skills, all of their life experience, come here with good open hearts, and we're friends first. Just amazing people coming here. And Gail, you're one of the brightest lights.
Well, thank you.
I
appreciate
enjoy
that.
when I have the rare opportunity to actually attend one of your sessions. I always come away having learned something and always had a good time. The people here are wonderful. I love being around them. So is there anything else that you would like to say to our community before we wrap things up?
Just how important it is to embrace your authentic self and accept yourself as you are. Because until you can do that, you can't really have positive relationships with other people. Because anytime you see a quality in somebody else that you dislike in yourself, you're going to have a problem with that person. So love yourself, love yourself, love yourself, and enjoy a wonderful community of people around you.
How can we find out more about you?
You can email me at www.coaching@happilyeverafter.life, or you can always find me at the Place of Spiritual Wisdom.
Thank you so much for being part of our program today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you today, Michael.
You're listening to the Open Soul Podcast.